Welcome back, all my dudes and dudettes out there. You're back passing the peace pipe with your shaman, the Packer.
Hey, Chief Blitzfreak.
Here as always, isn't he? Now, we are putting in the bowl this week. We're doing a bit of a couple of the foods you like and know. A bit of Chinese, a bit of Indian, but not foods, the countries. There are skirmishes along the borders been happening recently, and with everything going around with Black Lives Matter and Corona, hardly anyone's talking about it.
Yeah, I think this was referred to as World War III, the start of World War III at
Oh,
one point.
jeez, it's 2020. We've had already two of those alerts. What bloody America and Iran? They were supposed to be World War III, but we, as I said in a previous episode, actually, we hit skip on that like a bad YouTube ad.
Yeah, well, currently, the Chinese and the Indians have been killing each other on their borders, but no one's really talking about it. We'll discuss the latest skirmish, but it's probably better to start with where this actually did start, because I thought it started in the War of 1962 with the Chinese and the Indians, but you were saying it was Tibet.
Yeah,
Tibet's the starting, or
Tibet. They had,
Xinjiang.
yeah, well, as it's can be known as now, Xinjiang, instead of the autonomous Tibetan region, as well, another name for it. But yeah, that was back just after World War II ended, actually, 1951, I believe. And they had China expand into there, and basically it was supposed to be like, I think they were called the People's Liberation Army at that point.
Oh, they still are,
And
the PLA.
oh, okay, they
Yep,
still
they're,
are.
they're
Wow.
still around. They're still pushing the borders.
Jesus. Well, yeah, it was basically that, and it ended with them doing a 17-point agreement with the leaders of Tibet at that point. But then, I think like 3 or 4 years after that, they had a mass rebellion, and that's what everyone remembers. Not the initial expansion, but the rebellion after that. And that lasted for about 6 to 8 years, and I think like over 80,000 Tibetans died during it. So it was pretty extreme.
Okay, and did that end in 62?
Oh yeah, 62 or 64, one of the two.
Okay, so it might have
I'd have
actually
to check it.
continued a little bit after.
Oh, I'm just a bit fuzzy on
Ah.
that's all. But no, yeah, it either it definitely ended just like at one point.
Because
But, rebellions still could always be guerrilla groups in the mountains and whatnot.
yeah.
Which is kind of weird. You think Tibet, you think Buddhist monks and everything. You don't think guerrillas with rifles in the hills.
Well, I guess Tibet also, they lost, when they were taken over, the Dalai Lama, who was a spiritual leader at the time, he then was embraced by India. So I believe they set up the Indian, the Tibetan government for exiles that live in India. So there was a big period where they actually thought that Tibet was going to be taken back. But you look at how things have gone over the last 60 years, and I would say Tibet is lost, and India is just desperately trying to stop from losing the regions south of Tibet. I can't. It's like the Palash region or something. So it's not really going too well. It's not really going too well.
So-
I'd say that Xinjiang might be the name for the foreseeable future
Of India.
of Tibet. I don't think Tibet's going back.
Ooh. So what's kicked them off now? Is it
Well,
that?
no,
Is it
it's
those
not-
expansion into southern regions of India?
Yes, but this has been going on for the last 60 years. Both the Chinese and the Indians have been building roads to mobilize troops easier in the Himalayan mountains. They have been having little skirmishes over the years where it seems like usually no one dies. They don't use their rifles because neither country wants to escalate into a nuclear war. The last time I think they fired a rifle was in '62, which led to what they call a war, but really I think it was more that the Indians thought if they shot at the Chinese, just if they shot near them, they'd be able to move them out of the area, but they were really wrong. And the Chinese pushed back incredibly hard. Then it's said that the Chinese retreated and it ended. But that is what happened, but they retreated, but they also took a huge amount of land in the
So
process.
they withdrew from lots of land to more land than they still had at the
More
start.
land than they started with.
Yeah.
So the Chinese have been successfully pushing. What has changed would be that, India can only spend about a quarter of the funds on military, which is around 50 billion a year. So that's still a lot. Yeah. China's closer to 200 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a ridiculously large amount that they spend on that.
Google about that.
So they spend a fortune on the defense. But what it most likely is you'll notice that China has been making waves all around the world and pushing at different people at the moment. Now, that could be the Chinese president, Jinping. He is either liked or respected by a lot of the groups. Oh, okay. It says India spends 71 billion a year, not 50 billion.
A bit more.
Yeah, it's more than I thought, and China is 261 billion.
So I did the old economics back in the day, and that didn't sound quite right from what I had recently seen it. It's not that back in the day, but still.
But see what you have going on in China.
But still, the United States, 700,000 billion. Holy shit, boys, calm down.
I think what's going on is, well, with China and India is it's more of a stance of neither country wants to start war with the other country. But if you walk away from your land at all and the other people walk in, you can't really move them out. So that's the best way to actually grab land, is no one wants a war, just physically take the land, and then it's up to the person who owned the land to come back and take it, and they would then be the ones starting the war. So I would guess with lately, especially with coronavirus, that's affected India a lot worse than China. Well, that's what they're saying. They're saying that China has recovered. China is ready. If they had to go to a war with India, now would be the time.
Yeah, it did start in China, so, first to get it out of the system usually.
Yeah. But the Chinese do not want a war. They just want to push and keep taking more land.
China's more built up than, they've got more. How to say it? They've got a lot more of their land and cities and everything are developed than India's, because India's, they've built on everything basically, but they've still got a lot of slums and whatnot, and I don't think China would still have their slums districts as badly. So India with worse slums would, worse poor areas, sorry. Oh, well, I don't know. Technically, slums is what they're called.
Slums
is that the technical term for them? Because they are kind of just like... Yeah, they are just like really poor housings, but they're built on top of each other, though. They've got like...
Unless the government builds them. If the government builds them, you call them the projects.
Yeah. But it's because of that poorer infrastructure in India, in their poorer districts, I reckon they would be worse affected by corona. And they might even have denser population, because wouldn't China have more landmass than India does?
I'm not sure. I think they do have more,
Yeah, well, they keep
but
expanding.
but China has more people still.
Yeah, I'd say it's be pretty close between the two. They're both over a
And you know
billion.
what I just thought of now, which is like a little interesting, is even if you look at the numbers, do the numbers mean anything? Because is that just you're going to look up what the population of China is or India, but you're going to get the citizens of China or India. So what if they're all holidaying most of the time?
Well, if you're on holiday, you're still a citizen.
Yeah, or if a lot of
As long
people
as you've
like
got
I've
your
lived in other
registered
countries
citizenship.
and they would always say that I'm a citizen of Australia. They'd probably say that I'm always one of the population here. But I've lived in other countries, and look at how
Dude,
many Chinese and
it is
Indians live.
so close between the two.
Oh, they're both just under 1.4 billion.
Yeah, and China in the lead by like 68 million.
So it looks like at the moment China has gone to make extra pushes on land, and it would have been maybe a week ago. The India, it's a very weird situation because India is trying to play it down a little bit. So is China. But India is claiming that when they were out on a regular routine where they were told that the Chinese would not be, that they were meant to have moved, whilst they were there, they claimed that the Chinese attacked them, that they were basically ambushed. Now, no one used guns. They used fists, they used rocks, and I saw footage of spiked metal bats. So they're really doing some serious damage to each other, but usually, I guess, there aren't fatalities. The first person they said to go over the edge of the mountain was a commander on the Indian side. This probably escalated it much quicker. The Indians were able to get more troops there within the next 2 hours. The Chinese got more, and it ended up as a 600 person, basically fist fight, rock fight, and sharp weapons as they were trying to knock each other off the cliffs. The Indians claim 20 of theirs died and have showed the bodies and have held funerals. The Chinese made the claim that about 50 of theirs died but refused to show any bodies and claim that it's because they don't want to escalate things. Both sides are saying they do not want things to escalate. The issue is more that China is definitely going to keep pushing. And in fairness, maybe India also pushes, but India is claiming that it is pushing back on lands that it did own, which, if you look at any map, they did. They did have them. I mean, people lose lands, and you've got to accept that. But looking at it, it's always China that is taking the land. And now's a very good time to push. And it's like the Indians don't want to go to war, but they have also decided, no, we're not going to let you get the borders while we're weak. So it should be very interesting to see what happens.
Well, it's good they're both into the de-escalation of things, though, because these are some pretty big countries with pretty big populations.
Yeah, well, I think
So
the purpose.
it could do a lot of damage if a war did break out.
Yeah, I think that's why India wanted to become a nuclear power. Was actually so that China wouldn't be able, and then they wouldn't have to fight in the future. That they're always just going to be small scale border wars, but it should never escalate to anything bigger, which is difficult when you've got your government telling you don't escalate it, but also sending troops out marching along a border where they both disagree on the border and then crossing each other's paths.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, everything I'd seen about the Himalayas made me think it was a really nice place where there's just, you go hiking, and now from everything I read, it seems like you're quite likely to come across soldiers. Maybe not the best place to go hiking.
No, I'd definitely give it a miss if I was doing any camping or bushwalking. So you're telling me a lot of this movement has been created by the last elected leader of China because he's got so much support from all the guerrilla groups that they used to have to deal with in China, but now he's kind of you're saying he's kind of unified them all. Well, that's what you were telling me earlier.
Yes, it seems like everyone seems to like him, or they respect him enough that they're following it. He's not getting blocked on things, but I guess that makes sense when it seems like his whole view seems to be, let's make China better and let's push every other country because we can.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to think, we're now raised and trained to believe you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But it's nice to win, and I guess it hasn't been hard for him to get his view across, because they've had leaders who didn't agree with, like, I want to say democracy, or some like leaders who didn't want to even like weren't interested in money and stuff, whereas his views seem to be pretty clear, and he's unified the power of the people, so they can pretty much flex on everyone at the moment.
Yeah.
Which they're doing, and I mean, at the moment they can't. I mean, China would be doing amazing, you'd think, economically at the moment, because my understanding is our country gets like nearly all of our medical supplies from them, and
Yeah, well, yeah. They are supposed to be like biggest trade partner. But it's kind of weird though that he has got such support of the people, because don't they get like a lot of censored stuff with their internet, and it's being monitored and everything?
well, they do, but I would argue that ours is also censored, and even our YouTube's censored. I mean, look, you see the comments don't appear; they're just
the
removed.
classic video is not available in your region.
Yeah, that's a fun one. So I do get that they get censored. But then I also think, like someone said, they don't get YouTube. That if you're in China, you're not allowed to watch YouTube. But they have another thing which basically
Don't
translates.
know, just like how you could support your government so much when it's like that.
Yeah, but well, they have their own YouTube, and it's got like it's only their country, but that's half the total viewers of YouTube. So it's
Yeah.
actually huge. Like I've looked it
that's
up,
fair
and
enough.
I try to get some of my videos on there, some of the music videos, but it's really a pain because I don't speak Chinese.
That would be a barrier, and yeah, the reading and writing as well are probably a bit difficult.
Yep. And the little translate button that you click on, it doesn't do a great job of allowing
you whack that thing into Google Translate, and it's gonna be like 50% correct if you're lucky.
Yeah. So everyone has propaganda, and I like to, like you, I like to know about facts, and I like to discuss things. But you know, in all honesty, it seems to me like the average human on this planet just wants to have a nice life. And
Well, yeah, no one doesn't want to have a not nice
so
life. Jeez.
what does it really matter if your government doesn't let you know about what's going on? I mean, we don't see about volcanoes going off all around the world when they're going off because our government said, it's not worth them seeing it. You'd have to actually specifically look for it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like,
I
understand
I
things can
feel
be-
like we're a lot more able to specifically look for it if we wanted to than
That's true.
a citizen
but
of China
how-
would be.
Okay, how hard is it? You see Chinese everywhere of all different sort of economic levels that come
Yeah.
to our country and then travel around the world and stuff. So what's the point of blocking? If you block something in your country but you allow your people to leave your country and they're always on holidays, they're always seeing the other things anyway. They're always seeing the facts, and nowadays all it takes is you do a long distance Skype call with someone, and you can show them. If Skype's banned somehow in China, then you just do it from your mobiles.
Yeah, but that's a lot
You
of
can buy devices.
Extra effort just to go for that one thing, though.
It's true.
You have to do the workarounds.
And I know that what I'm about to say, I don't know how this applies to China or India, but I do know that in the past, when Australia, so like 30 years ago, when we had a couple of TV channels that we could choose from, I know that most places in the world, you had all these Arab countries and stuff where they just put satellites up. And they had access to thousands of channels. They could watch everything in the world. So I don't know if China and India are using satellite. Because if you're using satellite, it's very hard to block anything. Like if you allow people to put satellites up in their yard. People used to do that in Australia as well. I didn't know that's what they were doing. You could put a satellite up in your yard and pick up all these channels for free. You could see what was going on in the world. But again, I just don't know enough about China or satellites to say whether they might be banned in China. Someone might go, "You idiot! They're actually banned. That's what we're talking about. They're not a free country." And it's like, well, I'm not saying they're a free country. And like things are blocked. But India, we know less about. I mean, we talk about Australia, and like as Australians, we talk about China, and because we know a little bit more about them, even though they're blocked. But we know very little about India, and I mean, I just know that they've horrifically abused antibiotics and caused so many issues with the progression of viruses in their own country. Like this is a statement that I can make that is 100% true. Like
here we go.
They have really like messed stuff up, and I know that's a fact. And then I hear other things that I go, well, are they facts or is this bullshit? Like I hear that they still use a caste system in India, so you have tiers of people where basically you can like treat other people like shit or assault people based off of your level of where you were born into society. So you hear people in our countries and Western countries and places talking about equality, but no one talks about India because my understanding is they are so far removed from equality that no one wants to even talk about it. Like it's not men to women and colours and stuff. It's a caste system. Where if you're born down the caste, then I mean the weirdest thing, and this has got to be bullshit, but I've heard it from so many things. So if anyone's got evidence of this or whatever, like feel free to post underneath. It's like that if you're of a higher caste and you rape someone of a lower caste, that it is legally not called rape. That they're actually just the lower caste. And I'm like, well, that couldn't work. Or you would literally just have people of a higher caste dressing lower, walking around certain areas and raping everyone and going, I tricked you. I am actually Baron von Dali or whatever. And you can't do shit because I didn't actually rape all of you. Different caste, I tricked you. Now that's got to be bullshit, surely?
Sure.
But I don't know anything about India. I don't know if India blocks their TV more than we block ours. What do they show? I mean, I've watched Bollywood movies and stuff. There's a few of them I've really liked.
Do they get the Hollywood stuff as well?
I don't know what they get. I have absolutely no idea what Indians get access to. And I've known Indians as well. And it's like Chinese, they talk about themselves and their lives and stuff. And I'm like, Indians don't talk about India. If you don't live in India, you don't want to talk about India. So I mean, I don't know. Now I just feel bad for Tibet because all the stories I ever heard about Tibet were always so nice. And I heard some incredible stories. And we need to do a podcast on Lobsang Tirompa and how this one man created a vision of Tibet that we all still believe to today, and it turned out he wasn't who he said he was. But he still created this idea. So to me, I still actually have no idea anything about Tibet, really. Every fact that I ever learned growing up about Tibet was just made up.
Jeez. Oh, yeah, lot to think about, lot to mull over and all that, you know? Let your subconscious digest all those. Alright, well, I think that's about all the time we've got for today. We're about out here, getting a bit hungry.
Oh,
so,
man.
Yeah.
What are we getting today? Can we get dumplings again?
Dumplings? I wasn't really thinking dumplings.
It's my birthday.
No, it's not. What?
It's my birthday.
Is it?
It's my birthday.
No, fuck
It is
off.
my birthday.
Is it?
It's my birthday.
Are you fucking kidding
I'm not
me?
joking.
Really?
It's my birthday.
Really?
It is. It is.
Really?
Once this finishes, I'll show you.
Oh my god.
I'll show you my ID.
Oh, alright. If it's your birthday, we go get dumplings.
Hey, we're getting dumplings!
Fuck yeah. Alright, that's all for us. We're about out. So, peace.
Blitzfreak out.
Packer signing off.